share a case study or example where your penetration testing services identified a crucial vulnerability that was previously unknown to the client?
As you can imagine, specifics would be NDA protected, but I can anonymize a few examples and share them with you. One cloud-based, where we obtained a list of all registered users, and a second one, a web server, where in addition to users, we pulled all financial records. And then maybe a third one, a mobile application, where we had the ability to compromise tens of millions of phones. These aren't findings that another firm couldn't necessarily find, but our process allows us to ensure everything gets tested thoroughly with low risk of things getting overlooked. And we do this every time with multiple people looking over the shoulder to ensure that the experience of our team is used to its fullest. With the first example of a vulnerability we identified, someone reached out to me on social media and was inquiring about our services. So we set up a phone call for the following week. Over the weekend, I pulled up their website just so I could become familiar with their organization in preparation for that meeting. And within just the first few seconds of being on their website, I realized they had an open AWS bucket, which basically means I could retrieve all of the files from their cloud-based web server. And there were a ton of files that should not have been accessible by an unauthenticated user or even perhaps been on their web server at all. One of those files was a text file containing a list of every user registered on their site and all of their PII, their personally identifiable information. Some sort of daily backup process. So before we even met with that client for the first time, we were doing a vulnerability notification to them. And that scenario always spooks us a little bit. Vulnerability notification in general, but because you never know how a person is going to take it. There's a lot of people out there that will treat you hostile if you report something like that. But when it's a prospect client that you're about to meet with, it feels a little shadier, right? But in this scenario, not only did they ultimately go with us, but they are still a client with us to this day, years later. It's a very well-known organization. If I were to mention it, everyone probably would have heard of it, which just proves that this can happen to anyone. A second example with a web application pen test. A company that not only everyone has probably heard of, but many have probably used their services. And your data, including your financial data, is likely on this platform. We found quite a number of critical level issues, including a SQL injection vulnerability, which basically just allowed us to dump all of the data out of their database. You know, again, a very well-known organization. Some people watching this now would have accounts on this platform. Yet we drove a freight truck through their security. It was trivial for us. So again, it just reemphasizes everyone has these issues. A third example, a mobile application pen test we conducted, both on Android and iOS. Like the other two examples, very well-known organization. I can almost absolutely guarantee you probably have their app on your phone right now. We found a server-side request forgery vulnerability, which basically means that we could ask one of their servers to carry out an action on our behalf and leverage its privilege. So we asked the server to upload a backdoor for us, which is known as a web shell. And through that web shell or backdoor, we gained full access to their web server, which was serving content to said mobile applications. So in conjunction with that, what we found was that their mobile application had an issue where certain specially crafted content could be used to attack the phone itself to some degree, depending on whether it was iOS or Android. And I'll let you guess which was more vulnerable. And just a hint, it wasn't the Android. Anyway, we had the ability to render malicious content on every single mobile device, tens of millions. With that said, and for obvious reasons, we didn't actually do that, but we received confirmation from the client that it absolutely would have worked. So again, these issues are everywhere. Although we would love to speak with you and verify your systems are secure, even if you don't use us, I would just plead with you, get a premium level penetration test of your corporate network, your web applications, your mobile applications, and so on. There are many more war stories I could share with you, but suffice it to say, we find a lot of really serious issues in a lot of really well-known companies. If we can do it for them, we can do it for you. So give us a call.